You ready?
Tell me whenever you want.
Yep.
Okay, well here we are at the US Consulate in beautiful downtown rainy St Kilda Road in Melbourne to, well, celebrate is not the word, mark, I guess is the right word, mark Julian Assange's 49th birthday. Ironically on a day when nobody's at the consulate because they're celebrating the 4th of July, what they call their Independence Day. And it's strange that while they're celebrating an Independence Day, they're exerting pressure on so many other countries around the world. Pressure on the British justice system to keep Julian locked up in Belmarsh prison. And we know now, thanks to the leaked emails, that from the start, the US Department of Justice has been putting pressure on both the Swedish Department of Justice and the British Department of Justice to keep Julian inside. When they were talking about releasing him a few years ago, or rather not releasing him but dropping the warrant so that he can leave the embassy, the response from the US handler was, "Don't go soft on us now." This is about the United States persecuting an Australian citizen, putting pressure on the Australian government to do nothing, to sit on its hands while they keep an Australian citizen locked up in a cell built for terrorists when he has not been charged with a crime. He has broken no Australian law. He has broken no British law. Whether he has broken American laws is possibly a moot point. But if he did break a law, he did not break them while he was in the United States, nor is he an American citizen. The American government, the US government, is saying by this indictment that they have the right to apply their laws on any citizen in any country, regardless of where the alleged crimes occurred. Now that would be akin to some Middle Eastern governments wanting to extradite me for having a whiskey last night. Just because you do something which is illegal in one country, it does not follow under law that you can be tried by that country in any country, regardless of your citizenship. The Australian government, as I say, is sitting on its hands. This is the real seat of power here in Melbourne, and up in Canberra at One Perth Place in Yarralumla. Scott Morrison, in announcing his $270 billion defence expenditure on Wednesday, which is bullshit, of course. Every cent of that $270 billion has already been allocated. Was allocated as a result of the 2016 white paper. We've known about the long-distance anti-ship missiles. We've known about the space program. We've known about the 251 remote weapon systems that they picked up from electro-optic systems in Queanbeyan today, ironically enough, a day before a federal by-election in that electorate, Eden Monaro. What Morrison is doing is not spending any extra money, and we should be grateful for that, but he's again, on behalf of the United States and on behalf of Western capital, rattling the sabre and beating the war drum about China. He's doing this because somebody needs to, because capital requires it, because American investment requires it. And capital knows that America won't do it. We can't afford a confrontation between China and the United States. So they're using the American proxy, their dog in the Pacific. That's what we are today. And they've been doing this for a while. The list of Australian involvement in American war crimes is a long, long list indeed. And it is because of these war crimes, or rather because of exposing the war crimes, that Julian Assange is currently held in prison. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks leaked the documents showing that American troops with Australian complicity committed war crimes in the Middle East, in the suburb of New Baghdad in particular, where the collateral murder video took place. For the releasing of that video was the subject of the initial indictment against Julian and against WikiLeaks. While the soldiers who shot the unarmed civilians, who riddled a car they knew was full of children, they admitted they knew was full of children, who shot the first responders, have not been charged, have not been questioned, have suffered absolutely no comeback for those illegal murders. Yet the person who exposed the illegality is now in a terrorist cell. And we have the same thing happening here in Australia. We got Witness K at Bernard Colliery, currently facing jail terms for exposing Australian crimes in East Timor, because that's what it was. Built into a conference room and bugging it and treating it as aid
over there so they don't get you on social distance.
is a crime. But as I say, that's what the initial indictment... The initial indictment was about the collateral murder video.
Go Pies.
But just the other day, the United States Department of Justice, and I realise that's almost an oxymoron, the United States Department of Justice, has released a third indictment, what they're calling a superseding indictment, which doesn't add any new charges on Julian, but extends the inquiry, where initially it was talking about March 2010, the time of the collateral murder video. They've now extended that to cover all his